It was a good episode, though. I enjoyed this episode.
It was a great episode. I was thinking that what this season has lacked is some like real house drama, and like a surprising twist where like someone does something that you're not expecting. I don't mean like a twist in the game, like where TJ throws them a curveball, but like where someone betrays someone, and I think we finally got that this week, Sheldon.
Yeah, I think that's coming for sure.
So we'll do introductions. I'm John Chidley Hill.
And I am, once again, Sheldon Alexander.
And this is You Killed It, the podcast about the challenge, le challenge, as they say en français.
Is the challenge available in French? Is that a thing?
I assume so. Maybe.
Who knows? Maybe.
I think so. I don't know.
What is the French Cara Maria like, I wonder?
Well, I mean,
Right?
There is MTV in France.
True. Imagine that would be a pretty cool job to have to do the voiceovers in French. That'd be a pretty fun job.
Yeah, I think this show would kind of lose its gusto if it was all subtitled.
Well, the person would have to like act it out. No. You'd have like voiceovers. You just redub it.
Yeah.
But the person would have to like act it out and like give the same like emphasis, when they're fighting and shit. That'd be funny.
I wonder what Nicole's accent sounds like in French.
That's funny. Question for you though. So I noticed this a lot. A lot of people made comments on last week's episode in terms of what happened in the elimination round with Cam versus Tori. And I saw this way too many times. So I had to ask the question to you. There's a lot of people that think that Tori threw it so that Cam would win. Do you buy into that at all?
No, because Cam gave her that shove and stared her down. And I don't think Tori would just shrug that off. If the fix was in, why would Cam do that? And if I was taking a dive to help someone out and then they shoved me like that, I would no longer be taking a dive.
Exactly. Yeah, no, totally. I agree. I didn't think that at all when I watched it at first. I never thought that, but I just saw too many comments that people were just running to that conclusion. And I don't know if that's just because they have Tori built up in their minds as being this super great competitor. And so they're just so stunned by her losing that it was oh, well, it must be because Cam, she let Cam win. It can't just be because Cam beat her. Because Cam's still somewhat unknown, right?
Yeah, they're in denial.
Yeah. Super interesting.
I also think that, I feel like we kind of busted the myth of Tori's dominance in one-on-one elimination competitions. Right? I'm not knocking Tori. I think she's a very athletic person. I think she's got, the fire to, the competitive drive. But also, as we pointed out, the only person she'd beaten in a one-on-one elimination so far is Marie, who is not the toughest competition. Sorry, Marie. So,
yeah.
I don't quite, and I do like Tori, but I don't understand how she has this, badass rep. There's definitely badder asses out there.
Yeah, no, it was super interesting to sort of see how that all played out. But this episode was also super interesting to see how it played out as well, just because we pick up right at the end of last episode where the big drama obviously was the vote in which Cam basically sent her alliance member, Marie, directly into the elimination round. And now Marie and Kayleigh are kind of upset about this whole thing and Cam picking Marie. And they're saying they're surprised that she didn't pick Jemmy. Cara loves it. It's pretty funny to see this all go down, but what did you think of just, we talked about it at the end of last episode, right? It's not like it's not like Cam had much of a choice because, if it ends up being tied, chances are the vote's going towards her and she's the one getting sent in. So to not even test fate, you kind of have to put Marie in. But what did you think of Kayleigh being so worried? Did that kind of, Did that throw you off, that how she kind of confronted Cam to kind of be upset? Or do you think that they should understand the move that she made?
Well, I mean, I got two things to say to that. First of all, I think Kayla is an emotional person.
Hmm.
And I think that in any given situation, she's going to have an emotional reaction. That's just who she is.
Yeah.
But I thought she was respectful of Cam. Like, I didn't think she, like, lost her temper, but she's like, hey, like, I am stressed out. I'm concerned by your actions. And I think long term, this is going to be hard and it could blow up on our faces where it's just down to me.
Yeah.
And also, you know, strategically, I see why she's upset. Like they had this really solid block, and then they were undone pretty
Hmm.
quickly by both Cam's actions and also Jemmy's actions, who they thought they were good with. I mean, not quite an
Yeah.
alliance, but like they're buds.
Did you watch the after show? I didn't see the after show at all.
No, I
But I
didn't see the
wonder
after
if they
show.
discussed I wonder if they discussed the note, just because like I can't forget about that. Like, because you're wondering why, if Jemmy just went with their side, like that would be enough numbers for them to mobilize and move forward against Natalie and Cara, right? Just because it really makes no sense that we know that Jemmy and Marie are friends or whatever, but with the whole note and not knowing who did it, and maybe Jemmy still being salty, thinking that at this point in time she thinks that Marie did it. It seems so weird, but it also changes the whole dynamic of the game,
Mm-hmm.
because you then have Natalie, who is going to Jemmy and Cara, and she's trying to make a deal. And it's so funny because we called it out a couple weeks ago, right? We called it out, just the fact that Natalie thinks she's playing Big Brother, right? Which is a completely different game, in the sense that literally on Big Brother, whoever is the HOH, it drastically switches the whole like context of the house and what's going on. Whereas in this game, the swings aren't really that, like, the pendulum doesn't swing that crazy. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
she's playing that game that way. Like, for her to be in this moment where she's trying to make a deal with Jemmy and Cara just a week after she was just trying to make deals with Marie and Kayla and Cam, right? Like, it's so weird to me to see that,
Mm-hmm.
because wouldn't everybody be seeing right through this? And like, I don't know, it just seems so super weird to me. What do you make of this?
I think you're making a great point. Big Brother has a lot of like week to week deals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for this week,
Yeah.
keep my name out of your mouth, and then we'll take care of this person, and then next week it's sort of a fresh start. Whereas the challenge is more of a season long thing, right? Where like,
It's a long play.
yeah, you make a commitment, and then you're basically nailed down for, most, if not all, of the challenge, ideally. And like
Mhm.
part of the reason I think that's the case is you don't know if you decide to come back on the challenge, you don't know who's going to be in the house again. Like you can't, it's not just that you're thinking in terms of that season, you're thinking about next season as well,
So true. It's
right?
so true. And the interesting part of this is also seeing Jemmy's role, right? Like, Jemmy is doing a good I mean, she obviously sees that side of the house and wants to split them up. And to get Natalie to do that for you, to take out Kayla and or Marie or whoever, it's great gameplay by Jemmy, right? Because you're not really getting your hands dirty. You're kind of, she's making all these moves, but she's making sure that there's another person in front of her to take the blame, which we see later on in the episode as well with Kayleigh, right? Like, Jemmy makes the same dumb move that Kayleigh does, but she at least makes it seem as if like, oh no, you should be mad at this person, right?
Yeah. She's Jemmy's doing a good job of keeping the heat off of her.
Yeah,
But I'm
and
gonna
we'll get to that a little more.
Yeah, we gotta
later on,
circle back to
obviously.
that because I have more thoughts about
For
Jemmy's
sure.
strategy. But
So
Kayla
the
goes
meeting
to
with Kayla, yeah, I was gonna say the meeting with Kayla and Bananas. Like, what did you make of that? She goes to her, and her whole game plan is kind of to feel out Johnny Bananas, but also to let him know, like, hey, we have mutual friends, we should work together. But it doesn't really go as planned, does it?
No, Johnny Bananas like snaps at her and like
Hmm.
says that's the dumbest thing you could do, and you know now you basically just sealed your fate. And what she was arguing was that like, hey, the people I get along with best, male wise, in this house
Hmm.
are Zach, Leroy, and Tony. They're my friends, and those are the guys that you get along with. So like, we should get along. So there's no reason why
Yeah,
you should be nominating me in the Troika. Like, you shouldn't nominate me to the Inquisition. And then
which is
Johnny
a great point.
Bananas, yeah, I thought it was a great, reasonable point. And then Johnny Bananas, I don't want to say he loses it, but he's like, I should have been the first name that you said. And like, the problem with that is, if she said like, oh, Johnny, like, you're my biggest male ally in the house, he would have said, that's bullshit. You're closer with
Exactly.
Zach, Tony, and right, like, it's not.
She's
It's
really in a no-win situation.
yeah, and we're again, man, foreshadowing. We're gonna touch on this again, but Johnny Bananas is not his most. Excuse me. Johnny Bananas is not his most logical this season, right?
I
Like,
mean, you know what it is? I think he's just power hungry, right? And like he's sort of blinded by it because he thinks he has all the power. And with Natalie by his side, like it's almost like, okay, well, I'll handle like the male side of it and she'll handle the female side of it. And it's almost like he feels like he's a lot more powerful than he would be in a regular season, which is
mhm.
sort of weird to watch go down because that's not the case at all, right? And so two things. One, I think if Kayla's MO was if she just said, hey, we have mutual friends and kept it vague and didn't really get into specifics to say like, well, Zach, Leroy, Tony, blah, 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 and like go through these names, maybe she might have helped herself out if she kept it kind of vague and just said something like, hey, Johnny, like we have mutual friends. Like the dudes that you chill with or the dudes that, I chill with. Like we should be on the same side here and kept it kind of like that and not get specific in the names. That way he can't hold that against you somewhere else down the line, right? But my second point is I wonder if he's just saying that just because no matter what she said, he was going to shoot down anyways.
Yeah, yeah, he probably would have found a way to shoot it down no matter what she said.
So Kayla's not the only one trying to make deals, though, right? Like Marie was also trying to make deals, but the problem with Marie trying to make deals is it doesn't really make much sense because the troika in this situation is Nelson, Natalie, and Johnny Bananas. Marie's trying to make a deal because she says that she wants to go against Kayleigh. The problem is Nelson is currently having relations, I'll say, with Kayleigh. So there's no way that Nelson would put Kayleigh in. And as we're going to probably find out later on in the season, as Jemmy, I think, told us during our interview with Jemmy,
Yep, yep,
right? Like Jemmy told us about the whole Kayleigh, Johnny Bananas thing that's going down on the low, right? So, I mean, maybe Marie's not aware of that. I'd assume she's not aware of that side of the Johnny Bananas Kayleigh thing, but she should definitely be aware of the Nelson Kayleigh thing and know that there's no way that's going to go down. Like that was a bad strategy by Marie for sure, right?
yeah. Although, in Marie's position, realistically, like, who else could be put up that's not her friend?
True. I mean, the numbers are dwindling on the women's side, right? Like
Yeah,
Kayleigh is there, as Kayla alluded to later on, right? Like Kayleigh's there still as a layup, right? So people are going to keep her around. And I mean, if you look at the other options, it's Kara, Jemmy. Like really, she probably should have wanted to go against Jemmy, right? Like if you really break it down,
yeah,
or was
but
that even an option?
no, Jemmy would have been an option, but I assume, still considers Jemmy a friend, and I mean, they are friends in real life.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
But in
like,
terms of gameplay, she might have had a better chance of trying to convince them to put her against Jemmy, right? As
yeah,
opposed to putting her against Kayleigh. But I mean, either way, it wasn't a good strategy by Marie. Not a great episode for Marie at all, right?
no, no.
Um,
So let's talk about the Troika meeting
okay.
and the Inquisition following up. So Johnny and Nelson and Natalie, after some deliberation, end up putting Nicole, Cara Maria, and Kayla up.
Mhm.
And really, they wanted to put up, was it Cam that they were arguing for, and Nelson refused?
Yeah, it was Cam.
Yeah, so
Yeah. So
Nelson,
Natalie and Bananas wanted to put in Cam. Nelson didn't want to say Cam. He wanted to put in Kara.
yeah. And you know what? I really liked Nelson's gameplay here.
Really?
I thought that
Okay, go on, go on.
I like that Nelson stood up to Johnny Bananas and Natalie without seemingly pissing them off.
Hmm.
Because in the past, Nelson hasn't had as much backbone as I'd like. It's how he's kind of earned the nickname of Carlton Banks. And then
Yeah.
I liked that in the Inquisition, when they had Nicole, Cara Maria, and Kayla, he was like, he used it as an opportunity to have a frank strategy discussion with Cara Maria, where he's like, Cara, I was the one who nominated you. Here's why. It feels like you have Johnny's back, and Zach's back, and Tony's back, and Leroy's back, and obviously Kyle's back, but
Mhm.
not my back. And I don't
Okay.
understand why. And so they had like, it seemed like it led to a fruitful conversation between Cara and Nelson, and it helped them understand the lay of the land without offending anyone. Like it seemed like Cara wasn't pissed, Johnny and Natalie weren't pissed. Like he didn't lessen his position, and he understands where everyone stands better. And I think that's powerful.
So there were two things with this whole Troika and Inquisition thing that I didn't get. The first was Natalie right off the bat, right? She starts off and says that she wants to nuke that one room just because they're all coming for her, which makes zero sense, right? Because the last time we saw Natalie, she was hanging out with them in the bathroom. Remember Queen Cam taking a bath?
Mm-hmm.
And Natalie was hanging out with all of them, and they were brokering a deal.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened in between that and this conversation, I'm not really sure, but it makes no sense to me. I didn't know that they were coming after her, or unless I missed something else that happened.
But
So
this is my point, that she thinks week to week instead of long term.
I guess, but you would think that Johnny on some level would help her out, or like be like, yo, chill, like all you're doing is putting a bigger target on your back every single week, going to whoever's in power and trying to make deals, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my flip side to this is you mentioned Nelson, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing that I don't understand. Why does it even matter? Because Cara at the beginning was kind of upset that she was the extra person put in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I didn't get was why Nelson was arguing so hard, because it doesn't matter. Like, you're already clearly outnumbered, right? So Natalie and Johnny are obviously going to vote as a block. So even if Cara did go in, right, instead of Nicole or whoever, instead of Cam, Natalie and Johnny are still going to vote to put whoever they want to put in against Marie, and Nelson's vote doesn't even matter. So I didn't even understand why this was this long of a discussion and an argument anyways. Because if I'm Johnny, why am I arguing against putting Cara in if I know that no matter what, she's not going in?
I guess he just trying to speak for Johnny Bananas. I guess he just wanted to like,
He just wants to get his way?
he wants to get his way, but also doesn't even want to freak Cara out at all. Like, doesn't
guess.
want that alliance shook even the slightest bit. Even though he could just say to her, like, listen, Natalie and I are not going to vote for you.
Mm-hmm.
Nelson just wanted this. Johnny doesn't want his allies' names even mentioned in the Troika discussions. So,
Yeah, and I mean the Inquisition was pretty lackluster, right? Like nothing crazy went on in the Inquisition. I mean, basically Kayla just backpedaled. Nicole had no answers because she's basically just working with the entire house, right?
yeah.
And Cara basically was the burn vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty obvious what was gonna happen, but the puzzle, right? Like heading into the actual elimination round, we find out it ends up being the three as discussed, right? It's Kayla, picking between Kayla, Cara, and Nicole. The big debate was who do you put in? And somehow Johnny Bananas was telling Marie that it was going to be a puzzle. Cam was trying to tell Natalie that, hey, Marie's good at puzzles, so you should use that in your thought process in terms of who you're going to put in against her. My
Hmm.
question is, how did they know that it was going to be a puzzle?
I think, well, I mean, on the one hand, they were kind of due for a puzzle.
Yeah.
On the other hand, as we've learned in our interview with Wes, Johnny is very resourceful at getting a look at like shot lists and
I
getting
guess,
the
yeah.
intel from the producers and the
Producers.
camera people and the sound people.
Yeah.
So like I mean it could be one or both. Maybe it was an
Yeah.
educated guess, maybe it's just a guess. But Johnny Bananas is a wily fella.
Yeah, it was strategic editing if they're just, guessing at it that, hey, we haven't had a puzzle challenge yet, so maybe it could be coming up now. Like that would be a pretty good guess on their part. But the biggest issue here though is still Natalie's decision. And what did you think that she should do? Like, was it a good move to put in Kayla against Marie? Like what do you think the move was there?
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely the best move.
Okay.
I always think that if you are trying to target an alliance, the thing to do is to put the alliance against each other because that way one of them's going home.
Yeah. I
And
mean, it makes sense.
and especially in this scenario where it's a puzzle and Marie stands a chance of beating Kayla because if it's a physical
Yeah.
competition, it's probably gonna be Kayla. Um,
Yeah.
and I think long term, Kayla is a more dangerous person than Marie, at least
Mhm.
competition wise. So I thought it was a great move. I mean, I
So
don't
what?
like it because I don't like the Johnny Bananas Natalie alliance, but it's the right
Mhm.
move for sure.
So here's something I was thinking about. And I don't know if this makes sense or if I'm just overthinking it, right? Like the gameplay angle of this whole thing, right?
Hmm.
But here's the thing about the strategy, right? So you're right. Normally the move is you throw in Kayla against Marie because you guarantee one of their alliances going home. But the problem is you also guarantee that someone in that alliance gets the power of the grenade. And so depending on what the things are in the grenade, they could come back with a vengeance and have like real power the following week to target you. And I know there's a lot of different options, and we'll get to that later, but it is a kind of an interesting wrinkle, right? Like, do you need to kind of make the big moves like right away, or do you just get the weak people out when you can, or do you just take your shots when you can and say, hey, maybe Marie can take out Kayla. Kayla's a strong player. It's a puzzle. Let's hope for that. You know what I mean? It does add an interesting dynamic. Something that I didn't really think about last week, because I know I was kind of crushing last week and saying, like, oh, well, the game's pretty much laid out and it's pretty easy what's going to happen, or you can tell what's going to happen. But I feel like someone might, uh, pardon the pun, step on the grenade soon, and like kind of make a little misstep because it could even happen next week. We don't know. And I don't want to jump too far ahead. We'll get to that later. But do you understand what I'm saying though? Like in terms of you could be playing with fire by throwing in the two people because now you're guaranteeing that now they're going to come back and they can come back and affect you really badly, right?
I see what you're saying, but also, so far, the grenades have not made a huge difference, right? Like,
True.
Cara Maria had a grenade thrown at her, and
Nothing.
she still was on the winning team. Could have been in the Troika, but was talked out of it. But her allies were in the Troika.
Yeah.
So, and like that's just one example. It hasn't
Yeah.
been,
Nothing's really happened yet.
yeah,
Like making the teams.
it hasn't been the game changer that I think it was designed to be. And also part of that was Sylvia had a grenade and she didn't get to use it because she was too sick.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that too. Yeah. I wonder how that would have played out. That's true.
Yeah.
What did you make of Devin just sprinkling in a little warning here about Natalie and working with bananas will end up hurting Natalie? Like, do you agree with that? I mean, if I'm putting on my producer hat, actually, I'll let you go first. Do you agree with what Devin said?
Yes. Because I think it's obvious to the viewers that it's a showmance.
Mm-hmm.
And it must be, from what we've heard and from what we've seen on Twitter, it was obvious to everyone in the house that it was a showmance.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because people are noticing that Johnny and Kayleigh seem to be vibing.
Yep.
So I think I think Devin's right. And I know what you're going to say because you mentioned the producer's hat. They
Mhm.
wouldn't show us that if they weren't foreshadowing something.
Exactly. Right? It's just a nice little, sprinkle in Devin's about to stir some shit up, right? And it was awesome because it was kind of random and out of nowhere. Because at this moment in time, like as we're watching the show, Natalie and Johnny are sitting pretty, right? So it doesn't seem like they should have any reason to be worried, but yet here we are, and Devin's throwing that in. But we'll see what happens with that. We'll get to that a bit later. But getting to the actual elimination round, what did you make of this challenge? It was called Basket Case, and basically the two contestants they end up choosing Kayla, as we discussed, right? So
Hmm.
Kayla and Marie are both put into these. What did they call them? Spanish baskets.
Yeah, they're laundry
Okay,
baskets. They're wicker
laundry
laundry
baskets.
baskets.
And basically they're tied into this basket, and you have to break free, break out of the basket, grab your puzzle pieces, and finish the puzzle. So, who did you think was going to win? Is my first question for you, John.
Oh, I did think it was going to be Kayla. And I'll
So
tell
did
you
I.
why.
I thought it would be Kayla because I thought she'd be faster getting out of the basket.
Yeah, exactly. I thought she'd be faster getting out of the basket. I thought that she'd be able to tear it open.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's basically how it played out, right? Marie could not get out of the basket.
Yeah, and I wonder how bad it really was. Like, it looked bad. Watching it looked bad. It looked really bad, actually. But I wonder how much worse it really was unedited, just because Kayla didn't seem to be that strong on the puzzle, but she was done right as Marie got out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And just like the way the other contestants were chirping Marie,
Yeah.
and afterwards, TJ throws some shade at Marie for, in his words, maybe giving up.
Yes. Yes. That was interesting.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. And
Which
not a
make
good look, too.
no, which makes it sound that like she maybe took a little pause to compose herself before getting
Yeah.
out of the basket. I gotta give a shout out to the production team though for choosing Green Day's classic Basket Case to show us Marie struggling in her basket. I thought that was the perfect choice.
Sometimes it's just too easy, right?
Yeah. But like honestly, like when was the last time you even thought of the song Basket Case by Green Day?
I would say a very, very long time, as especially if you go into my musical taste, John. Right now, I can't put down the Nipsey Hussle album. So I think that's a little bit different than Green Day. But,
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I'm just saying it's a deep cut.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. So yeah, Kayla ends up winning. She gets a grenade, and the grenade has three options, right? You can cash out, which means you take all of the money, all of someone's money. You can team up, which is picking the teams for the next challenge, or put up or shut up, which any player has to win a spot, they have to win a spot into the Troika, or they go directly into the elimination.
Oh,
So
no, it
when
was
they
into
first
the
announced this,
Inquisition. It wasn't into the elimination. It was into the Inquisition.
oh, that's what it was? Oh,
Yeah.
I thought it was into the elimination. Okay, I
No.
thought that was a way better. So at first I thought that was a way better option until I saw the challenge actually pop up, and the challenge was you're just getting split into two teams.
Hmm.
And once I saw that, I'm like, well, you can't take the put up or shut up because, I mean, if the person wins, like, then you just screwed yourself and your grenade means nothing. What did you think the choice was for Kayla to make?
So I wrote this down before we knew what the competition was. I thought put up or
Mhm.
shut up. Well, it was a tie between team up or put up or shut up.
Yeah,
I mean, I know that picking the
I thought put
teams,
up or shut up too.
but I thought my thing was because it was straight into the Inquisition, I'm like, that's not a guarantee,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Whereas with the team up, especially the position Kayla's in now, she needs to circle the wagons as best she can, and she needs to shore up her alliance, and the team
Yeah,
up allows for that, right?
for sure.
Like you can
For
protect
sure.
several people with the team up. With the put
Yeah.
up or shut up, you're basically just targeting someone.
Yeah. And you got to give Kayleigh a lot of credit for her gameplay in this, like after the whole Johnny Bananas debacle, which I still feel like, as we talked that through, maybe it could have been a situation where Johnny Bananas wasn't going to let her win regardless of what she said. So maybe I'll like give her a bit of a pass on that. But everything else that she did in this episode was really, really smart. Like after she won and she came back to the house, she made sure to go talk to Natalie and butter her up to at least give Natalie the impression that she wasn't mad or she wasn't going to hold it against Natalie that Natalie put her in. But clearly we know she's not going to forget that, and she's going to hold it against her and send back the return shot whenever she can, right? Mm-hmm. So a smart play by Kayleigh there, and then she ends up picking the teams, and she did an amazing job of that, I thought, right? Like, I thought that was a great job by her. Yeah. She also said on Twitter, I wrote this down too, I just want to get this in. So she said she didn't steal, someone on Twitter wrote to her and said, why didn't you steal the money? You could get all this money. And she said, I didn't steal the money because I thought it was more important to gain power. Power gets you into the final, which equals money. But money doesn't get you to a final.
I mean, that sounds logic, but also we now know that if you're eliminated from the show, you don't get to keep the money.
Also true.
So, like, at this point, like, earlier in the season, you and I have been saying, like, oh, yeah, like, take the cash grenades because you're not really going to piss anyone off. Like, it's not that bad, and you can, like, keep a low profile. But we're at a stage where the game is changing. There's not many layups left. And we now know that you don't get to keep the money. So it does you no good to steal money from other people because you got to make it at least to the final to get money.
Well, I think at some point, like in the coming weeks, they're going to say, all right, whoever has whatever money at this point, this money will be yours. Mm-hmm. I assume that's going to happen at some point, but I want them to do it after someone chooses that grenade.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because right now they're all probably thinking exactly what you just said, right? Oh, well, you don't get to keep the money anyways. But I want someone to choose it, and then they're like, and you actually get to keep this money, regardless of when you get eliminated. That would be a cool little twist, I think. Mm-hmm. So she picks the teams. Kayleigh picks the teams, and as we said, she did an amazing job, right? Yeah. So I wrote out the teams here. She figured it out, so she put Zach, Tony, Brad, Kyle, herself, obviously, Cam, Natalie, and Nicole, to which Natalie, for some reason, is asking if this is a girls' elimination, who's the fall girl? Is it her or Cam? Which, like, really? Like, is that a serious question? That made no sense to me. What is she watching? I'm so confused by that. But anyways, the other team was Leroy, who's back. Good to see Leroy back. Nelson, Bananas, Devin, Cara Maria, Brittany, Jemmy, and Kayleigh. So Kayleigh says she put the weakest girls and with Cara, and then all the injured people. Super smart move. And it was good to see her do that after she messed it up on Dirty 30, right? Which they flashed back to.
Yep.
Because remember how bad that was during that season where...
That was awful.
Yeah, like she just basically screwed herself, which it was good, learning experience. You learn stuff on the challenge as well, right? It's not just all fun and games. There's learning involved.
We haven't... Yeah, there's learning involved. We haven't described what this challenge is, though, and I loved this challenge.
I thought it was really good, too. I feel like I could have watched a full episode of this challenge. So it was called... Do you want to explain it, or do you want me to?
I'll explain it. It was called Kickin' Ass. Mm-hmm. And in short, it was a game of soccer. But instead of a soccer ball, they had like a big stability ball like you'd see at the gym. Mm-hmm. And they were in those like bubbles that are a harness that go over you. And so it's like you can play like bumper soccer in those. And furthermore, they're wearing stilts. So every team had, I guess it was 6 people in these get-ups with the bubbles and the stilts. And then each team also had 2 people whose job it was to run around and help people get back on their feet after they get knocked over. Because I guess the producers realize it's basically impossible to get up on your own.
Yeah. Such a great challenge. I thought it was such a great idea. And again, I would watch it for a full episode. And even what we did see, it was really good. But the one thing that made me so nervous, every time someone fell down, I was just like, oh no, I hope this person doesn't like tear an MCL or something.
Oh, yeah.
Because it just looked like people were falling so awkwardly. And you don't have your hands to brace yourself. And you're on stilts. So like, I don't know. I think it looked, for the most part, I feel like the parts they showed made it look way easier than it actually was.
Oh, I think it'd be so hard. I wrote that down. This looks so hard. And it looked super hot. Like, it looked like it was hot out. Like, TJ looked like he was sweating just standing there. And, like, Johnny Bananas was one of the people running around helping people get back on their feet. And he looked sweaty. And like, imagine how hot you'd be in, like, a clear plastic bubble with the heat beating down and, like, running around. It would be awful.
So crazy. And that's 2 back-to-back just, like, crazy, difficult-looking challenges, right? Where, like, those things just look so hard to do. You could definitely get hurt. Great. Whoever came up with these games, which, like, I don't even know how they do it season after season, coming up with different games, but slow clap for them.
There's something I gotta point out, and that was Johnny Bananas. When they were choosing, like, who's going to be on the stilts and who's not, he is like, no, I can't do the stilts thing. Do you think he learned that he's not good at soccer from Champs versus Stars? Like, do you think he learned a lesson?
Somewhere Emily and Wes are smiling.
Yeah.
Just, like, knowing that how much he sucks at soccer? Maybe. I don't know. That was funny, though.
And Justine.
That was very funny. Yes. I forgot about Justine. Actually, I think it was yesterday. For some reason, it came across my timeline. There was an episode of, what is that? Oh, Wild 'N Out.
Mm-hmm.
And she was on they had a competition where not only did they have to, like, freestyle, but they were on a mechanical bull spinning around. And then a word would pop up on the screen and you would have to use that word in your bar as you rapped along.
Oh, my God.
And, like, she did it. And it looked, first off, like, that's hard. Just, like, having, like, whether you're a rapper or not, right? Or sorry, whether you're a good rapper or not and good at freestyling, and they're just popping up words and you have to keep freestyling and keep going and adding in these words, that's hard enough. But doing it while you're spinning on a mechanical bull, I was like, what the hell? Like, this is super odd. But as I watched it, I was like, this is fake. They obviously know the words ahead of time and she got a chance to, like, make her rhyme. And I don't know if that's fair of me to say, but watching it, I was just like, oh, okay. All right, Justina, get yours. I shouldn't hate on you.
So, although he's on the crappy team, Devin scores the first goal.
Yes. A solid goal by Devin. You know, put the underdogs up, give them a little pep in their step. And, yeah, I think that was the one that made them figure out, too, oh, okay, well, even if I'm on the ground and I've fallen off the stilts, I can still be effective. I can crawl. I can, like, use the bubble that I'm in to hit the ball forward.
Yeah.
Right? And I think after the other team saw that, that's when they kind of took over. Zach kind of turned into a beast and, you know, really dominated this game as well. And their team ends up winning 2-1. Again, I wonder how long the actual challenge took. Like, how long it took them to complete that. That's something that I'd be interested to find out.
You know, I had the idea that they called it off early because, like, at no point did they said, like, this is a best of 3. And then
right
suddenly
at the beginning
TJ
they said,
was like,
no,
next
right
goal
at
wins.
the beginning they said, no, at the beginning they said first team to score 2 goals wins.
Oh, well, I'd also like to point out, and I've never pointed this out, I don't think, before, but have you noticed that every time TJ goes over the rules, it's clearly a voiceover?
Yeah. No, definitely notice that. Yeah.
So I wonder if in post-production, like, I wonder if originally it was to 5. And then TJ, they were like, oh, this is going on too long. And TJ was like, next goal wins. And then in post, when he's doing his voiceover giving the rules, they're like, just say first to score twice.
Yeah, I bet that happens literally every single episode on every single reality show that there is, right? As soon as they do a cutaway, everything is just a voiceover redub because you have one idea of how something's going to go, like when you're plotting it out as a producer, and then obviously what actually ends up happening will then dictate your edit. So a lot of times where, there might be something where you completely get screwed and then you have to kind of concoct a storyline out of just what footage you have, and that's what you got to do, right? So definitely notice that every time. And I wonder if people start to pick up. I wonder if our people that listen to our podcast start to pick things up now that they didn't pick up before in terms of those little nuances, right? But I don't know. Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Comment either on Facebook or Reddit or the SoundCloud.
Yes. So, the blue team ends up winning. Zach and Kayleigh and Tony decide to elect themselves as the Troika, again, I don't understand. Like, how does everyone else, at least Brad, they shot down Brad, right?
Yeah.
But at least Brad tried. His mistake was probably suggesting himself, but suggest someone else other than those two guys, right? Like, I didn't understand how there was no real fight to that.
Yeah, although, I mean, I think Zach and Tony are both pretty popular. Zach in particular is popular in the house.
Yeah.
And I think seen as like a stable, decent guy at this point. So I think they just, like, I don't think anyone would argue with Zach, or to a lesser extent Tony. And Kayleigh made the fair point, like, hey, I made this team, and if I don't, like, make some choices, like, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, I agree with her take. And I even, to an extent agree with what Tony and Zach said, right? Like, they're the ones that scored the goals. So,
yeah.
I agree with that.
But
and then
even
when
Brad
you look at the rest of their
assists,
team.
So.
And when you look at their team, because it could be anyone, right? But when you look at the rest of their team, it's Kyle, who's playing in the background, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cam, who just kind of had the spotlight shone on her, so she probably wants to, like, play back a little. Natalie doesn't have Johnny to protect her, so she probably doesn't want to go in. And Nicole's kind of clueless, right? So, it kind of makes sense that Zach and Tony know that no matter what, they were probably going to suggest themselves to be the Troika anyways, right? So that was kind of interesting, but a good move by them to, again, as we pointed out last week, these guys are just dominating the game and running with it. And the flip side of it now, this is where things got interesting, right, John? Because the green team has to vote to send one person automatically into the elimination, right?
Yeah.
And the vote comes down to, it's picking between Bananas and Devin. And it comes down to Jemmy. And what did you think Jemmy was going to do?
Because she'd had that conversation with Cara Maria and Natalie earlier, I thought that she was going to vote in Devin in support of Johnny Bananas. I think that's the wrong decision. Sorry, Jemmy, but that's the wrong decision. If you have a shot to put Johnny Bananas in an elimination, you take it.
Yeah.
Like, you got to take that shot 100% of the time.
Was it Devin that said, this move is so easy, you obviously just put in Johnny Bananas and then you send in Leroy against him?
Yeah, that was Devin.
It was Devin that said that, I think? Yeah. I mean, it does make total sense, and I'm pretty sure that if you ask Kayleigh when she was making the teams, and, if like her and Zach and Tony plotted this whole thing out, I'd assume that that's probably what their plan would have been. Like, that's why you put Leroy and Bananas on that team together, so that if they lose, we can put them both in the elimination. But, yeah, it's funny, like, you just mentioned Jemmy having that conversation at the beginning of the episode, and I didn't even put that together. I was just kind of like, what? Does she really think that she's on Team Johnny? Like, it really made no sense to me for her to do that. But then what really didn't make sense was Kayleigh, who I don't even think she should have done it just because of Nelson, but the fact that she didn't do it made herself look very fishy.
Mm-hmm.
And Devin was just stunned.
Yeah.
Devin was like, what is going on? Like, are you guys joking? Like, that was probably the most entertaining part, Devin being stunned.
And calling them idiots. I do have a criticism of Devin here.
Okay.
And maybe this is an unkind edit. So, Devin, if you're listening to this, let us know. Give
Mm-hmm.
us a shout. Or any of the people who are present. If you hear this and I'm off base, please let me know. But Johnny Bananas always makes a little speech before he votes someone in, right?
Yep.
Devin, it seems by the edits, just said, I vote for Johnny. Devin should have made his case right then and there.
Oh, like said it right there. Yeah.
Yeah, he should have said to like everyone else, because it went Johnny first, then Devin. He should have said, listen, guys, we have a tremendous opportunity here to take out someone who is running the household, who has a strong ally, like a strong alliance, and is the winningest competitor in this show's history.
Yeah.
I'm voting for Johnny Bananas, and you should too. Like, he should have, like, given people a nudge in the right direction.
For sure. That would have been a smarter move for him, for sure. And it was just interesting, though, because it might have been the part that Kayleigh didn't think through, right? Because, like, who's on that team? So Leroy's not going to say Bananas, right? Devin, you don't know, or not, Devin's going to say Bananas. You don't know what Nelson's going to do. You don't really know what Brittany's going to do. You don't know what Kayleigh's going to do. You don't know, right? Like, there's so many unknowns, and it's just so weird that they all flipped to Johnny Bananas' side. But what did you make then of Devin making the call, like, after it's Devin, him just, like, stating, hey, give me Johnny Bananas. Send him in against me. What did you think of that move? Was that a good move by Devin or kind of a dumb move?
I mean, I think it's kind of a dumb move just because I think Johnny Bananas, like, 7 out of 10 times is going to beat him in competitions.
Yeah.
But then again, if you're going to go out, you might as well try to go out like that, right? Like, because your alternative is that you go in against someone, possibly an ally, and you get taken out by them. Or sorry, your best case scenario is you take out whoever, and then you go in and you go back into the house and you have one fewer ally.
Yeah.
And you're still like, I mean, you have a grenade, but those haven't been super effective to date. Like, if you're going into an elimination...
It was super effective today, no? It was super effective in that challenge, right?
Yeah, today it was, but otherwise, they're a dicey proposition. And you might be down an alliance member. So, I think that calling out Johnny is the right move. Especially, Johnny Bananas is scared of Devin. And this is something I want to talk to you about. Johnny Bananas is definitely afraid of Devin. We saw it a few episodes ago before where, like, Devin basically called Natalie out on how she's playing the game, and Johnny kind of freaked out about it. And now, just the way Johnny is carrying himself, even, like, when they're leaving the arena and Devin is trying to say to Kayleigh, and to a lesser extent Jemmy, like, you guys just screwed up. Like, what are you doing? And commiserating with people. Johnny is right there inserting himself, trying to, play it down. And then it seemed to me that, like, Devin's just trying to walk around and, like, talk to Kayleigh. And it seems like Johnny is following him through the house to interject himself and to, like, immediately argue against any point Devin might make to rally the troops.
Well, it was just funny because Johnny came over when they're sitting at the house. He came over to confront Devin about what he called bullying Jemmy, or bullying the chicks, as I think he said.
Yeah.
Was his exact quote. But then you're calling someone else for bullying, and then you proceed to do the same thing to them. Yeah. Right? So it made no sense. But
Johnny on Twitter, Johnny on Twitter is a huge bully. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen between then and now, but Johnny is also capable of bullying people. So for him to, like, try to claim the moral high ground, it's a little hard to take.
Yeah, it was super weird to see. And I mean, I wonder how it's going to play out next week when we see, like, who are they going to send in? Because you assume it's going to lead to the Devin Johnny Bananas showdown. But the thing I was going to say, though, is it might be a good move, him picking out Johnny, because chances are it's going to be a physical challenge, right? And the only other options would be Leroy or Nelson.
Yeah.
So if you're going in a physical challenge and you had to choose between, do you want to go against Bananas, Nelson, or Leroy? I mean, say what you want about Nelson, but we see Nelson beast out in multiple eliminations, right? Mm-hmm. And we know Leroy, same thing. So maybe that is the angle. You know, part of it is, yes, let me get this one-on-one with Bananas because I hate this guy. But also, it's probably the best case scenario for you if you're going into a physical competition.
Yeah. Also, Johnny is injured.
Also true.
Right? So I think that Devin's making the right call. The question is, can he convince Kayleigh, Zach, and Tony of that? And I
think definitely.
Do you?
I think definitely, because I think they're about to flip on Bananas.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. I think they're about to flip on Bananas, and that's going to be the move. And he doesn't see it coming, and that's why he's so overconfident and talking so much shit.
Well, see,
right? Because he probably thinks they're going to just throw in Nelson. Right?
See, to me, I really think Johnny's playing scared between his overreaction to Kayleigh and just like freaking out and like hounding Devin.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you're right. It could go either way. I just think that if he was actually worried, he should have no reason to be worried, though.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he should be confident enough in his alliance of the Zach and Tony alliance. He should be confident enough in that, so he shouldn't really be worried.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think they're about to flip on him. That's what's coming. That's what I think.
Well, we do have to talk about one other thing that was in the coming up next week on the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like Devin tells Nelson that there are rumors about Kayleigh and Bananas.
Yeah, and I've been waiting to see what's actually going on when they appear to be throwing someone's luggage over the ledge. Like, I kind of been waiting, like, because we've been seeing that in every single montage or teaser for the season. And it hasn't happened yet, so maybe I guess it happens next week. But also, the other thing that was in that trailer was they made it seem as if TJ was talking to Kayleigh when he was like, that was really unacceptable, or something to that effect. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was very, very disappointed. And they made it seem like he was talking to Kayleigh, but I don't know. It looks like shit's about to go down, and I'm here for that.
I'm excited for that.
Good, solid episode, a strategy episode, and a setup episode, right? Because big things look like it's going to happen next week.
Big things are coming. I got to ask you, though, Sheldon, who do you think killed it this week?
That's just super easy to me, and that has to be Kayleigh. Just because Kayleigh went from being in a difficult position of being put into the elimination, and not only did she win, which, Marie didn't really show up, so it was an easy win, but that's not Kayleigh's fault. She still had to go through the process and win. But the real strategic move of putting the teams together that were drastically in her favor and at least setting it up so that you could try to get rid of Johnny Bananas, like she at least set that into motion. So I got to give her a lot of credit for that. But then on top of that, she's maintaining her political game by, telling Natalie that she's not really mad at her, that everything's okay with her, and they're cool. But really, she still has Cam. Mm-hmm. She clearly still has Tony. She clearly still has Zach. She has Nicole. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she has enough people. Like, it seems that Kayleigh really went from being in a difficult position where her alliance was in trouble to now, maybe things aren't that bad. Kayleigh killed it to me.
I agree. Kayleigh is also my pick. I think that, I agree with everything you just said. But we're also seeing her evolve as a player and a person. The knock on her, from what we've heard on Twitter and in reunion specials, and when we've had people on our show, when we've had people on You Killed It, is that she isn't great at the social game. That she's nice and she's fine. It's just that, like, she's a little too content just chatting with Jenna and no one else. Mm-hmm. And it seems like she's coming out of her shell a little bit. And what could, like, on the outside look like a bad political play with when she approached Johnny Bananas, I didn't actually think it was that bad. Like, I don't think anyone could have really predicted that that would be Johnny's response. And, you know, what she said in the Inquisition, where Johnny's like, oh, it just proved that she's a bad liar. I didn't think that she came off poorly in the Inquisition. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I think she made her best case in the Inquisition.
Yeah, she did a good job of backpedaling for sure.
And I thought she was when she spoke to Cam about, like, nominating Marie, I think that was a very civil discussion. All things
Definitely.
considered, where she's just like, hey, like, I'm upset about this and I'm stressed about this. And, like, she's basically trying to settle their issue. Right? Like, it was a nice friend move, a good political move, just to be like, hey. And, like, Marie was in the room too, so, like, it's not like Marie's like, oh, you were talking about me. It was just like, hey, I don't like this situation at all. And, like, I need you to understand that I don't like that. So.
No, I totally agree with that. Totally agree.
So, yeah, Kayleigh, good job.
Kayleigh, good job. It'll be interesting to see where she ends up next week. Because, again, she still has numbers on her side. Like, she can make this work.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, I just look forward to seeing if they do flip it and throw Johnny Bananas in.
Yeah.
But the problem is, if they take that shot now, and they miss and Bananas comes back, the line in the sand is kind of drawn, right? So, interesting to see what goes forward. But maybe if Devin blows it up, it doesn't matter anyways, because then he becomes the bad guy in the house anyways, and everyone's against him.
I want to make a prediction here. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I could be wrong, but I have to point this out. Let's just say it's a theory of mine. I think the way that promo video was cut, I wonder if Devin telling Nelson about Bananas and Kayleigh came after the elimination.
Maybe, and then they stretch it out so that it ends up being the tease for the following week after that. I could see that.
No, I'm saying that, like, I wonder if Devin, whoever he goes against, wins.
Oh, okay.
And then comes back, and this is what he does to get vengeance.
I got you. Maybe.
Because, and bear with me here, there's that shot of Kayleigh flipping out, presumably in reaction to Devin outing whatever's going on with her and Bananas.
Yep.
But we didn't see Bananas in that frame.
True.
And you know that if there's drama, Johnny's right there.
Mm-hmm.
And also, tactically, like, Devin's a very strategic thinker. Nelson has no sway with the Troika. So why would Devin tell him this information unless it can do damage?
No, that makes sense.
So I wonder. I'm very curious to see the order of events for next week's episode.
Okay. Something to look forward to.
Absolutely. I'm psyched for next episode. It's gonna be good.
Good times, as always, on the challenge and on You Killed It.
Yeah. I guess that's it. Where can people find you online?
I am at Shell Alexander on Twitter and at Sheldon Alexander on Instagram.
And I am at J Chidley Hill on Twitter. And I mean, if you feel like a glimpse into my personal life, at J Chidley Hill on Instagram.
Yeah.
And you know what? No warning for people following me on Twitter this week because the Olympics are done. So it's just sort of regular sports challenge, music, pop culture talk on Twitter for me. So, you know, we've moved on.
Sounds good.
Until next week, this was You Killed It.
You Killed It.